Okay, so we've got a case of white ants in the door jamb. Now I only noticed these because when I went to close the door wouldn't close properly, and then I noticed the jamb had been eaten out under the paperwork. Now I made the mistake I stuck my finger through it and started ripping it open, and yeah, and of course there was white ants going down that side. Now when you do detect them, and you can easily see where they've been because you can see the paint starts going ripply like this. Okay, and that's a good indication they're working underneath the paint. Don't disturb them, because as soon as you disturb them like I did here, they simply close off the tunnel and they move somewhere else. Fortunately on this one, on the other side, they carried on working, and you can see again the paint rippling up here. Now I put black texture marks on it, and you can see where that black texture mark is here, there, and you can see how the paint's soft right back to here now. That's how much they've eaten in 2 weeks. Alright? So fortunately I didn't disturb that, and I put a white ant bait trap on the windowsill, and I'll explain how to do that a little bit more now. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I put this on 2 weeks ago. I'm going to film and undo this with one hand, so just bear with me for a moment. Put this on 2 weeks ago, and I packed it with some white ant bait, which was simply an eBay purchase. And once again, I'll go through the brand and where I got that, and I'll show you how I made this trap. This is it's just a plastic box, and I've just given it a quick squirt of black paint just to make sure it's as dark as possible for the little critters, so they don't get upset. They don't like light too much. That's after 2 weeks, a little bit more, and that guy up there. Now, I did get a guy in, and he wanted $3,500 to do this, and I thought, no, let's give this a go. So, let's open her up. Still not quite. Right. And you can see there they are. They're busy away in there. Alright, so they've eaten out the whole bait thing. What I'll do now is I'll restock that, and I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. Okay, this is the poison that I've got, or growth inhibitor, whatever you want to call it, just off eBay, Queen Ant Killer. I've mixed it up in a bowl, a glass bowl, and I've used bottled water. Do not use any water from the mains that's got any chlorine. They're very sensitive, anything like that. I've mixed it up into like a dough-like substance, and all I'm going to do now is I'm going to squash that into the box. So I'll do that, and I'll show you that after it's done. Okay, just to go through how I made the actual trap that I put onto the wall. It's just a plastic box I bought from JK Electronics, nothing fancy, and I cut a hole in the back. Okay, I haven't cut it here, but that's where I cut the hole. Now around that hole, to stick it onto the wall, because you don't want to disturb the paint, I put just a big heavy bead of No More Gaps water-based caulking compound. Okay, again, use the water base so that it doesn't put out many fumes that might detract them from coming into the box. And I tried to keep it far enough away from that hole so when I squashed it on, I didn't close over the hole. So once that was done, I then simply, as I mentioned, it's a bit hard to film this because of the position, I just literally squeezed that onto the thing, let that set for a day or two, and then I took the lid off and then cut through gently through the hole in the back, through this soft paint there, and then pulled that little bit of paint off, and I could see the little white ants moving up and down. So that's how that's done, pretty simple. Now you can see I've got the Queen Ant Killer, and I've actually packed it in. It's just like a dough, and basically what that does, they take that back to the nest, and it stops and it transports it to the queen and all the little worker ants that transport it back there, and it stops them molting. A white ant has to molt, shed its skin, and it stops that molting process, so it means they literally implode on themselves. And it's the best way of getting rid of your white ants rather than poisoning, because it takes it back to the nest. And in my case, I'm pretty sure if you look out there, you can see that big dead tree there, that's where they're coming from. So it takes it all the way back to the nest, and if they're not just inside this, it also takes it right through the house wherever they are and gets rid of them. Okay, now I'll just go through putting the lid on. Right, so there's a bit of space in the back of the lid, so I've just packed that up with make sure I've got plenty in there. Now I've put 2 of these packets in, and I think they're 100 grams, so I've put in 200 grams, and they've chowed through that in 2 weeks, which is pretty good effort. Alright, so let's just simply put that back over the top, and I'll screw it shut. Okay, so it's all screwed closed again, and I've just put a bit of masking tape with a date on it, because I'm going to check that again in 2 weeks. You keep refilling this station every 2 weeks until the bait isn't, there's nothing taking the bait. Then you know you've taken it right back to the nest. Now once again, you can see these guys, how much they're eating, where these lines, and they're actually over there. So they're munching away. They haven't made it up into the top of this jam. Fortunately, it's not attached to the rest of the house, as in the timber work, but you can see they're right up in here. That's what you're looking for. So you should really then go around and sort of tap on your beam just with something with a hard edge, just to hear, you can hear solid, and then when you get, it's not, so there's a good chance they're under there. But again, don't disturb them. When you find them, put your bait nest on, put your bait trap on it and start feeding them. You should also get underneath your house, check up all beside your stumps, and make sure that there's no mud tunnels coming up. So again, you can see they've come from the bottom up here, and all that's hollow. They've been quite busy. Okay, so the next stage, once you've got rid of your white ants, you want to put bait monitoring stations up around the outside of your house. Again, this one's just a purchase off eBay. You can easily make them yourself out of a bit of just a bit of stormwater PVC, 90mm stormwater. That's sunk into the ground. Okay, and if I drop this lid off, and it's got 2 pieces of wood in there. I'll just grab this. It's got simply 2 pieces of wood in there. Okay, and that's obviously sitting level with the ground here, with your 2 bits of wood in it. Then all you basically do is every 3 months, you simply lift that up and check your 2 bits of wood. And if you've got white ant activity in your bits of wood, you just go through the same procedure and you put your ant killer straight into the box, put the lid on, and then keep feeding that station until you've killed the nest. Now the good thing about these is these should be put at like 5 metres or so intervals around your house, but not too close to the house, in areas where you think there might be white ant activity, but a little bit away from your house, because you want to actually catch them a little bit of a distance away from your house rather than right next to your house. But these are a great way of just keeping track, and I plan on putting about 8 or 10 of them around the house and in certain areas, just so I can monitor the white ant activity. What will happen is they'll send their little scout ants out, they find it, the food source, and then they transmit that, basically take that information back to the nest and tell the workers where to go, and off they go and they come and feed on it. So they're quite a clever little society, but something you definitely don't want in your house. Again, everything here was purchased off eBay, and it's really not that hard. Give it a go.